G'day there guys, it's your main man Markee, and I really want to go back to when Farmville was popular. Wasn't that a time to be alive? Hope you enjoyed today's content. We're reading another episode of r/AmiTheA. Sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the Barbie, and enjoy it, cause it's gonna be good. Thank you. Posted by user Zazka. Titled, Am I the a-hole for uninviting my parents to my wedding after my mum said that I don't care about your effing wedding? I'm engaged to the love of my life. We'll call her Sarah. Sarah doesn't have issues with my parents, but there is a little tension on both sides, and no one has attempted to be close, which is fine, I guess. It makes me a little sad that they are not more excited about her. Sarah asked my mum the other day if she would help make centerpieces. Sarah is into DIY, but we're running out of time, and she was asking around to see who would be willing to help. She admitted to my mum that it was kind of grunt work, and if she didn't want to, no pressure. My mum got offended and said of course she doesn't want to. We haven't cared about her at all, so she doesn't care about your effing wedding. This hurt Sarah, but she didn't fight back. Sarah told me, and I called my mum. Honestly, I probably went into it a bit aggressively, but I yelled at her for saying that to Sarah. My mum said that Sarah hasn't included her in any of the fun parts or cared about her opinion on anything, so why would she help her make centerpieces? I asked her to apologize to Sarah, and my mum said no. She was done talking about it, so I uninvited her to the wedding. My dad sent me a text because I said he could still come, and he pretty much told me to F off if I thought that he would come without my mum. My mum is now upset because everyone is going to ask where she is. Sarah is very happy and feels like I defended her, and literally everyone else thinks I'm the a-hole. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I don't know if I overreacted or not. She didn't say anything personal or insulting, and she is my mum. Also, she is right, and we have a gossipy family, so this is going to lead to an embarrassing situation. Also, I was a little aggressive on the phone. You come across as extremely entitled and are hiding behind Sarah, your wife, who continues to drive a wedge between you and your mother. No wonder things have gotten so heated with you refusing to control and mediate the situation. It seems like you are more than happy to let things get to a breaking point here and alienate you from your mother, and that's messed up. You value your soon-to-be wife over your family, and that's fine if that's the way you want your life to be, but it doesn't seem like that family did anything else to deserve being ostracized, and your wife is solely to blame for what's happened. She seems like a bad person, and you're enabling her. You're the a-hole. Now in the comments, Fantastic Cockroach 63 says, No, you're the a-hole for letting your fiancé and her family treat your mother with such disrespect. Do you even love your mother? And OP replies, Not really. I'm at the point where I feel like she chose my dad, who is irredeemable in my opinion, and I love Sarah. My mum always taught me that marriage comes first. I get that she is going to put her husband first, and I'm going to do the same. You say she chose your dad, but how? This whole terrible post has been mostly about her and her negatives, from your perspective. So how did she choose her husband/your father? You seem to hate both your parents and treat both like garbage. Your fiancé and her family treated her like garbage. Did you stick up for her? No. No matter where you come from, that is an a-hole move. And OP replies, He wants to go completely nuclear and act like they never had a son. He tore all my pictures off their wall, and that same night, she posted a picture with him out having fun. And I just don't get how you can go have a fun date night with a guy who hates your son. Honestly, I don't blame your father for wanting to do that. You were disrespecting him, his wife, and your culture. You just assume that they choose each other, but aren't you the first to abandon them? Your culture by choosing a wife and a family that are racist. Unless they abused you your whole life, otherwise, you are the biggest disappointment of a son. And the fact that your fiancé is doing nothing to ease the tension shows us how much she is a manipulative person and will be a bad wife. If your mum wanted to be involved in certain aspects of the wedding, she could have asked, couldn't she? If not, she can't be mad about not being part of it. If your parents want to make you feel bad about the wedding and complain, they can stay at home. Sounds like they are more concerned about appearances than you and your fiancé. And OP replies, "She didn't ask, but my mum was raised to never be rude and never impose. She would never ask to be involved because she feels if the person wanted you, they would invite you. So she hasn't been overbearing, she's been polite, attended the shower where the family basically steamrolled her, she's not invited to the spa day pre-wedding. And throughout all of this, you just sort of hum-de-dum, I don't know, there's no issue. Have you made any effort to include her in any way? Knowing she's good at event planning? Look, there wasn't much for our mums to do either to help, but we ensured some things were delegated to them like, can you help us design a memory table with childhood pictures and stuff? You and your fiancé made zero effort here. Your mum has held her tongue the entire time, and when she is wanted, it's to stamp out centerpieces as grunt work. Nice. I don't blame her for her rude outburst. I think you and your fiancé have been pretty rude this entire time, and you like to claim ignorance and apathy." And OP replies, "She was rude at the shower, but that isn't a black and white thing. Sarah's family were asking a lot of questions about if my mum is Muslim, why is her hair down, and why was she showing her shoulders. In my opinion, my mum could have found a quick answer, but instead, she was like, I'm not a teacher. If you want to know about Islam, read the Quran. So she was rude, but their questions were kind of rude too." Whoa. No, your mum wasn't rude, but it sounds like Sarah's family, and probably Sarah, honestly, are racist. I had a hunch, but I didn't want to say it because I hate the way racism is thrown around these days. But between this comment and the Sarah was raised that family, which she does her best to make sure your mum knows she isn't, helps no matter what, leads me to believe that she was raised by toxic, trashy people. And OP replies, "Honestly, a lot of people who I really don't think are racist are surprised that my mum doesn't cover her hair. I think the common perception is that most or all Islamic women do." Need more info. Was your mum left out of other wedding activities? What have the interactions between her and Sarah been like? If the first time I was reached out to was to make last-minute centerpieces, I would be really offended. Either way, she shouldn't have said that to Sarah, and you were way too aggressive towards your mum. You should try and smooth things over. And OP replies, "She was invited to the shower, but never involved in planning or shopping. My dad runs a big company, and my mum does a lot of party planning and events for him, and she is very good at it. To be honest, we knew that she would want to help, but Sarah didn't want her, and I respected that. She wasn't invited shopping, we never talked about plans with her, and she isn't invited to the pre-wedding spa day that Sarah's family will be at. You're the a-hole. Even if you didn't want her planning, it's pretty standard for the mother of the groom to be at all pre-wedding events unless something egregious is happening, which it isn't based on your account. Are you sure there's tension between them? Because it sounds more like Sarah is just mean and totally cutting her out. Can't believe you'd ask her to do grunt work after excluding her from everything else." Posted by user Wedding Home Question. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for not allowing my oldest daughter to use my home as her wedding venue because her mother and her family will be invited? I had a restraining order against them until recently." So I'm in a pretty bad situation right now. When my stepdaughter got married 2 years ago, she used our home as the wedding venue. We have a meadow in our backyard that is able to accommodate a large number of people, as well as an empty, clean barn that can be set up for dinner tables. My daughter was supposed to marry at another location last year, but because of the pandemic, the venue shut down permanently. She's now asked to use my home for the wedding, but I told her my issues with that. I had a restraining order against her mother, my ex, and a few members of her family after threats and harassment were directed towards my wife and myself. The restraining order expired mid-last year, but we haven't heard from them since. But I stayed firm on my decision. This has upset my daughter greatly, and she's screamed at me, which she's never done. I offered to give her $15,000 for an alternative venue, but now she's adamant about it being our home. I feel extremely uncomfortable giving my ex and her family access to my home because that's where the washrooms will be. My daughter has put this issue on Facebook, and now I have all of my extended family against me. This has also stirred up my ex and her family against me. And worse is that my wife and stepdaughter are now being accused of trying to ruin my daughter's wedding when they haven't played any part in it. I'm planning on giving in and letting my daughter use our home for the wedding later this year, but I'm going to tell my wife and stepdaughter not to be around for it, which I'm sure is going to create a bunch of other issues. Am I the a-hole? I think to any normal person outside this situation, it's a not the a-hole judgment. If you don't want them using your house and they refuse to find another venue, that's not really your issue. But family warps situations and perspectives on these things, and it's very likely that this won't go well for you, even though morally you're in the clear. They're not going to see you being morally justified in this situation and magically accepting you turning down their request to use your house for the wedding when you had no problem having it be used before. To them, there is no way in hell you're anything but an a-hole, and I don't think it's possible to change that perspective. You'll just have to accept that reality and anything that happens as a result of your justifiably hard boundaries that you need to set. You're a rational player, surrounded by irrational lunatics by the looks of it. All that said and done, I'm going not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Manic Murderino says, "Whoa, what a sticky wicket. Not the a-hole under the circumstances. My recommendation, renting porta potties and maybe a commercial tent for the bride to get ready in for the day is relatively inexpensive and will ensure that nobody needs access to your home. And security for the house access perhaps, in addition to having some sort of bouncer for the outside activities in case these folks make a scene. Definitely not the a-hole. Definitely some security cameras around the house. I'd do the porta potties and a tent route and lock the house up on the day of. Also, OP, talk to your daughter. Does she feel a little neglected compared to stepdaughter? Is there something more going on with her that made her unexpectedly scream like that? Did she know about the restraining order and the reason behind it? Unfortunately, don't think we're getting an answer to that one. Random Guy 5 says, "Are you kidding? Not the a-hole. You kinda had a restraining order on 2 members, and you gave her an opportunity to find somewhere else. Why is she so adamant about your house?" I would bet money on her mum laying it onto her about how her father must prefer his stepdaughter and that sort of thing. Adult children can still be hurt and weaponized, particularly if there are any old wounds from childhood that can be picked at. I'm not saying OP did anything wrong, we don't know the story, but divorce and blended families can be hard on kids, especially if things get nasty between the parents, which the existence of a restraining order suggests they did. If she went far enough that there was a restraining order involved, I don't doubt she'd use her daughter to cause more drama. That was the first thing I thought as well. I'm willing to bet if his stepdaughter didn't use his home as a venue, the thought wouldn't cross his daughter's mind. As a kid who was constantly used as a weapon, yes. Her mum is certainly telling her how much he must prefer his stepdaughter, and they're trying to push her out so they can have their perfect family without her. Mum is playing the victim, and I really hope OP doesn't allow this, but I can also understand the fear of hurting his child. Not the a-hole. Go renew the restraining order if your ex and her family are harassing you, and explain to your daughter that she can either have the wedding at your home without her mother and her side of the family, or she can accept the $15,000 and have it elsewhere. But for personal safety reasons, you will not let her mother into your home. Otherwise, rent porta potties. They have some super fancy ones for wedding venues. Trailers and don't look or smell like porta potties with a washroom. And OP says, I won't be renewing the order because I don't have any real standing this time. I also don't want to renew it because I do want to attend my daughter's wedding without causing any issues. But the outdoor bathrooms are an excellent idea. I have texted the idea to my daughter. I wouldn't give her anything at this point. She's vilified you on social media and reignited an issue with your ex. You had offered a very reasonable compromise, and she crapped on it and you because she didn't get what she wanted. I wouldn't let your ex anywhere near your property. Also, if issues do arise and you seek a restraining order again, the fact that you were comfortable enough to have her on your property could look bad. Tell your daughter, I love you, but this isn't possible. And deduct $1,000 of that $15,000 for every extended family member that harasses you on social media or elsewhere. And in the post, Opie offers an update to my post. And they say, I messaged my daughter about the outdoor trailer bathrooms, and she has refused and said that it was a disgusting idea. She then accused me of treating her worse than my stepdaughter, and that I play favorites and that I'm a terrible father. She does not want the wedding at our home anymore, and hung up. She is no longer picking up my calls. I got an angry call from my mother, who says she is hosting her wedding instead, and that I will not be welcomed at the wedding. My father will be walking my daughter down the aisle instead of me. Thanks everyone for the advice. I appreciate it, but I feel like I've made the biggest mistake of my life. I'm completely broken. Posted by user OppositeValuable781, titled, Am I the a-hole for insulting my sister-in-law after years of holding my tongue? So my sister-in-law is low class. I really have no better way of putting it. She has a 10th grade education, thinks she is smarter than everyone else, and brags to make herself seem like more than she is. At her core, she's white trash, plain and simple. My brother is the only reason she's not living in a trailer right now. She will bluntly talk about her sex life, about things she's done, and crap that nobody really wants to hear. She'll also openly insult me, and I'm told by my parents to just accept it and not make waves with my brother. For 8 years, I've tolerated her on the basis that she makes my brother happy. This weekend, we were all together, and she began talking about how my brother is a blanket hog. My fiancé laughed and admitted that she was the blanket hog when we shared a bed, and I never woke her up to get them back. Sister-in-law responded that she would wake my brother out of a sound sleep to get the blankets back, and that once he was awake, he'd be looking for something else. She then stated that I knew better than to wake my fiancé up, because obviously I didn't have my A game at that time. These feral comments are typical of the type of thing she typically says. I replied, I can make do with the sheet and light blanket. I don't need to disturb her sleep when she gets up so early. She laughed, I'm just saying, don't wake us up if you don't have the game to back it up. My fiancé was a virgin when we got together. This is not well known as it's really nobody's business but hers. At this point, I'd had a few drinks and I was feeling a bit prickish. I smiled and replied, I can confidently say I'm the best that my fiancé has ever had in her life. Sister-in-law rolled her eyes, looked at my fiancé and asked, Really? I mean, I know you have to stroke his ego, but really? My fiancé laughed and said, Well, actually, he's right. He is definitely the best I've ever had, and that's not an exaggeration. Sister-in-law shook her head. In your whole life, be honest, woman to woman, who's the best? My fiancé admitted, he's my first, best, and only. Sister-in-law laughed, Wow, seriously? You gotta put some miles on those tires before deciding on the best. I interjected, Well, when you buy a new model right off the floor, as opposed to a used-up beater, you don't have to worry about who's been inside of it before you. Note, I do not think of women like this. I love and value my fiancé no matter what, and I drunkenly attempted to flip her own metaphor back on my sister-in-law. Sister-in-law became very quiet, and they left shortly after. My brother told me that my sister-in-law is very upset with me and says that I called her a tramp. I told him that I'd been holding my tongue for a decade for his benefit, and I was done putting up with her. I regret saying it, mainly because of the sexist implications and being drunk, but I stand by shutting down that line of conversation. Am I the a-hole? Even if you somehow had good intentions there and wanted to flip her words back onto her, you still messed up big time and slut-shamed her out of nowhere. I don't think she deserved to be shamed like that, and I don't think your wife deserved to have your sister-in-law say those things to her, but they happened anyway. You could have been morally fine in this situation had you not said that one thing, OP, but in doing so, in my books, you've landed in the a-hole category. Sure, to some people, you may have been justified and magically not an a-hole for firing back, as her reaction made it apparent that she can give but not take, but that's not my place to say, that's not my opinion, and those people that think that are welcome to their opinions. Ultimately, everyone sucks here for this situation, and I think you know that too. You all went too far, and holding your tongue for 10 years was apparently enough time for this to all come flooding out. Now in the comments, Ronit Sarangi says, quote, "I regret saying it." No you don't. If you did, you'd be apologizing to your brother and to your sister-in-law for that comment. Regardless, if that is how you think of your sister-in-law and her comments, why the F would you hang out with her? It's like you revel in the conflict and drama that it brings. She sucks, but you're no angel. Think of some other way of resolving conflict than making sexist, disgusting comments like that. Everyone sucks here. Agree, everyone sucks here. OP, if you have an issue with sister-in-law, say something to her face in a one-on-one discussion rather than just think that she is trash for years and then slut-shame her in a group setting. The people OP is describing don't do any better with confrontation. Sure, OP is technically an a-hole, but some people need to be brought down a peg once in a while. Slut-shaming is never okay. Women are not cars who lose value with every partner that we choose. You're the a-hole, OP. That's true, but virgin shaming isn't any more okay. The sister-in-law sucked first here in my opinion. Shestami says, "The fact that you said, 'Note, I don't think of all women like this,' shows that you already know that this was a bad thing to say. You really could have said nothing at all, or told her you don't like her, implying things about your sex life because it's none of her business and rude. Definitely everyone sucks here. Yeah, a better person would have more emotional intelligence, enough to communicate how they feel in a proper way. OP is here blaming alcohol and sister-in-law because he couldn't say at the very beginning that she was making him feel uncomfortable. You're the a-hole. You were very right when you said, 'My fiancé was a virgin when we got together.' This is not well known, as it's really nobody's business but hers. But then you made it everyone else's business when you said, 'I can confidently say that I am the best that my fiancé has ever had in her life.' You basically decided to behave in a worse manner than your sister-in-law to show her how rude her manners are. It seems that it bothers you that she's so open about everything and has no filters, while you need some drinks to behave the same way. And it seems that this bothers you even more because it comes from a woman. I don't buy I do not think of women like this. I think you specially love your wife because she was a virgin when you got married and look down on women who sleep with whomever they choose. Didn't his fiancée bring it in a more explicit way herself though? He was vague enough. It's just crappy that he got dragged into this to begin with. It's done now. He kind of forced his fiancée onto that conversation track though. He could have just let that side of the conversation die down. Right? He had to bring his fiancée's purity up so he could use it as a cudgel against his sister-in-law. He treated both women monstrously, which frankly, makes sister-in-law's cheeky advice to his fiancée that much more valid. Because if she had more romantic experience in general, she may well have higher standards. Alright guys, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you need a good laugh, please do check out my second channel, Markee 2, links down in the description below, or it's going to appear somewhere on the screen here at the end, little bubble with my face on it. As always, a big shout out to my Patreon and channel members. Your faces are surrounding me right now, and I love to have you guys with me, and down in the comment sections of each and every video, and just knowing that you're always there to support me. It's a humbling and lovely feeling. And rest assured, I do see you, and I do notice your support, and I thank you every day for being here and helping me along this journey. Not much else to say besides that, guys. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I do hope that you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I will see you in the next video, and thank you again. Bye.